To go ahead and begin the meeting of the Finance Committee. It is 12 o'clock and we're here at PUB. Wanted to know, I'll call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum of our committee. Are there any public comments?
No public comments.
No public comments?
No.
Okay. And then we will start with the regular agenda items. Item number 1, presentation and discussion of the Brownsville Public Utilities Board's financial performance report for the period ending December 31st, 2024.
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Mike Perez. I'm the Chief Financial Officer, and I'll be providing the financial performance report as of December 31, 2024. So here we've got the executive summary that focuses on 7 different categories. Each one has its own gauge meter, red representing poor, yellow average, and green good. So as far as the flow of funds, we've generated year-to-date $270,000. That is to replenish the improvement fund. The debt service coverage is at 2.19 times, which is well above the 1.25 times requirement. The fuel purchase and energy charge has generated an over-recovery of $19 million as of December 31st. This will be used to offset any future market uncertainty. The current rate is at 0.05019 cents per kWh, and it's been maintained like that for the past 6 months. The COB cash transfer is lower than budgeted, slightly though, due to a decrease in adjusted gross revenues, but we're still doing good here. Personnel and non-personnel expenses came in at about $1.6 million below budget, and it's really related to some expense timing issues. BPUB's average bill is lower than both the average MOU bill and the average IOU bill for the 1,000 kWh residential user. Current bill stands at about $111.26 for that 1,000 kWh user. On the CIP, this month we updated the gauge meter to average based on some new metrics that we're reporting. So the CIP year-to-date expenditure actuals were at $6.8 million. And the outstanding encumbrances were at $31.1 million, which represented a combined 49.9% of the fiscal year 25 approved plan. The CIP progress year to date will be provided under a separate presentation later on this afternoon. Oh, I'm sorry. And of course, we are meeting all the key financial metrics. Here we've got the condensed statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position. We compare the year-to-date actuals with the same period last year, starting off with operating revenues of $54,808,000. This came in at about $8.8 million above last year's. Some minor changes were noted in the base and fuel revenue, but the major item that triggered the change was the $9,492,464 of rate stabilization funds that were approved by the board back in November and December of last year. And so that lowered last year's levels. The operating expenses came in at $47,612,000. They were approximately $1.9 million above prior year's level. So the majority of that increase was in contractual and other services. So we end up with line 3 operating income of $7,195,000. Subtracting out the net non-operating revenues expenses of $4,579,000, and we arrive at income before capital contributions of $2,615,000. Adding in capital contributions of $2,739,000, we end up with an increase in net position year-to-date of $5,355,000. Adding this to the net position at the beginning of the year, we end up with a net position at the end of the period of $480,491,000. Here we've got the condensed statement of revenues and expenses based on the flow of funds, and this is in compliance and in accordance with the bond ordinance. We are comparing current year actuals with the year-to-date budget. So operating revenues of $53,095,000 or $10 million below budget. This line item includes both base rate revenues, the fuel revenues, along with the off-system energy sales. So under the base revenues, they were under budget by $2.9 million. Fuel was under budget by $8.6 million, and the off-system sales were over budget by about $1.4 million. Other revenues year to date were $5,037,000. Those were $762,000 below the budget. And the variance represents some decreases in some auxiliary services generated through the ORCAD market. So line 3, gross revenues came in at $58,133,000. We back out the fuel and southmost expenses of $18,099,000 and arrive at an adjusted gross revenues of $40,033,000. This is the basis for the City of Brownsville's 10% transfer calculation. So they are entitled to $4,003,000 off of that. We back out other requirements for O&M and non-operating debt service of $31,393,000, and we arrive at a balance available after requirements of $8,640,000. Once we back out the total cash utility benefit to the City of Brownsville, the 10% of $4,003,000, we have a balance available for transfers out of $4,636,000. These funds were used to fund the transfers out of $4,366,000, leaving a balance to replenish the improvement fund of $270,000. I would like to point out here on the transfers out, we are under budget by about $2,183,000. So we didn't do any transfers to the CIP or some of the reserves for the month of December because the funding was not there available. One of the reasons for that was that we did incur we ended up reporting 3 pay periods for the month of December in these numbers. And not only that, but the other thing I wanted to point out is that every single month is not linear, right? It's not, we don't generate the same amount of revenue every single month, but when we do this comparison on year-to-date budget, we're actually taking the annual amount divided by 12 times 3 for the quarter ending. And so the initial months during the beginning of the fiscal year are really a little bit overstated because most of our revenue is generated in the summer. And so we're doing fine. Again, we didn't do any transfers for the month of December, but we will catch up. Our debt service coverage is very healthy at 2.19 times. Any questions?
No questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 2, presentation discussion on year-to-date capital improvement plan activity as of December 31st, 2024.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the board. My name is Jorge Santillan, Finance Manager, and I'm going to be going over slide number 2, and then Mr. David Ramirez is going to go over the cash flow or planned expenses for the remainder of the year. Beginning on this slide, this is the financial summary of our CIP through December 31st, 2024. Looking at the left side, the first dashboard and total budget for the FY 2025, $76.1 million. Actuals through December 31st, $6.8 million or 9% of budget. Committed, those are the purchase orders issued to date, $31.1 million or 40.9% of budget. And that leaves a budget balance of $38.2 million or 50.1% of the CIP budget. Moving on to the dashboard in the middle, actuals and committed by project type as percentage of budget. First, number 1, electrical. 47% of the budget has been spent and committed. For water, 40%. For wastewater, 63%. And for general and administration, 40% of the budget has been spent and committed. Continuing on the right side, the year-to-date actuals and committed by category. In blue, we show the actuals, so totaling $6.8 million, and then in red, we have the total committed of $31.1 million. Looking at the top 3 categories, first, under construction, actuals of $1.2 million, committed of $17.1 million, grant funded, 1.7 actuals, $7 million committed, and then customer connections, 2.5 million actuals and 3 million committed. And this is a brief summary of the CIP through December, and now if there's no questions, I will turn it over to Mr. Ramirez.
Good afternoon, committee and chair. The following slide presents information for the fiscal year 2025 CIP planned cash flow. The blue line is the year-to-date expenses as staff's planning on spending monies this year. The black bars represent the same information on a month-to-month basis, and the red line there represents actual year-to-date. So in this graph, what we essentially want to see is that red line staying close to the blue line, which is our plan for the fiscal year. The information out of this graph came from several meetings and discussions with project managers and directors that provide information on schedules and milestones for the project. The idea behind this is to have an additional layer of information that can help us catch potential issues early on in the project schedule to help complete projects and meet goals at the end of the year. Are there any questions on this plan, this approach?
I just want to applaud you guys on these changes. It's nice to see progress being made on the CIP budget, so congrats. And then the only other thing is cumulative summation, cumulative sum. Just make sure you use that term when explaining this chart next week to keep things from going off the rails.
Sure.
If possible.
Thank you.
Thank you for the report.
Thank you.
Item number 3, presentation, discussion, and possible recommendation to appoint a depository bank for Brownsville Public Utilities Board's funds.
So yes, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. On November 14th, 2024, the BPUB Purchasing Department received proposals for banking depository services. The proposals were advertised October 19th and 26. An email to 15 banking entities. 6 banks responded as follows. We had Wells Fargo Bank, Frost Bank, JP Morgan Bank, Lone Star National Bank, Texas Regional Bank, and Texas National Bank. The request for proposals listed specific criteria that the BPB requires from the successful banking firm, including the capability of providing fraud prevention services such as ACH, blocking, payee positive pay, and other fraud services to ensure the safety and security of the BPB funds. The new service agreement is for a 3-year period beginning on June 1st of 2025 through May 31st of 2028 with 2 additional 1-year options. Our objectives, really, our priorities are safety and security of funds and investments, preservation of capital and protected financial resources. We want to ensure that we meet the requirements of our investment policy, and we want to meet all the requirements of the Texas Local Government Code, and then capable of providing the services required at the least possible cost. This account activity was provided in the RFP, so just a quick note. BPUB had about 72,761 billed accounts for the entire system, with an estimated operating net revenues of $223 million. We maintain about 28 checking accounts with a historical average collected balance of $3.1 million. Some other data, we do issue out payments on a monthly basis of about $17.1 million out of our clearing account. We do have direct deposits or direct debits from customers for utility payments, $3.9 million per month. Vault services account for about $3.5 million a month, and Lockbox, another $1.3 million. And then we do have our payroll ACH direct deposits on a biweekly of about $2 million. Here, we want just to emphasize the distinctions between BPUB from other units of local government in relation to the depository services required to meet the cash management needs in daily operations. And so the units of local government used in this comparison include BISD, the Port of Brownsville, Cameron County, and the City of Brownsville. So what we did is staff, in order to differentiate BPUB from other units of local government, BPUB prepared a synopsis of the previously mentioned organizations highlighted contrast in the depository services required for depository services. So in the instance of BISD, they currently do not utilize lockbox services. The most commonly used services are the payee positive pay, ACH, and wire services. As far as the Port of Brownsville, they do not include or require the need for lockbox services or remote deposit services, merchant card processing services, vault services, over-the-counter debit blocks, or check cashing thresholds. Cameron County and the most recent RFP, they did not include any account verification services. They did not include over-the-counter debit blocks or any check cashing thresholds. The city of Brownsville, they don't require any account verification services. They don't require vault services, and they don't require over-the-counter debit blocks or check cashing thresholds. So just wanted to point out some of the differences between some of the other local entities as compared to PUB. Some of the general requirements that we were looking for in a financial institution were that they be capable of providing services required at a reasonable cost, meet the requirements of Chapter 105 of the Texas Local Government Code, meet the requirements of our Public Funds Investment Act, Chapters 2256 and 2257, is willing to be attentive and responsive to Brownsville PB financial matters and technology needs, and demonstrate some financial strength and stability. Here we list some of the rating criteria that was used to evaluate and rank the proposals. Some of the criteria that carried the higher weights included the ability to perform and provide the required and requested service, the cost of services, the earnings credit calculation, and the account balances, and our interest paid and interest-bearing accounts and deposits. Those criteria that carried a weight of 3 were the funds availability, financial strength and stability of the institution, overnight investment options, and the criteria that carried the lowest, at weight 2, was the completeness of proposals in agreement to points outlined in the RFP and their community presence. Right, so the total points any particular bank could have earned would have been 140 points under this criteria. These are the required and requested bank depository services that were included in the RFP. They are numerous, but I will focus on the top 7 critical services that we requested. So one was the vault services. The availability of a local vault provides a streamlined and more secure method of cash deposits while improving efficiency by removing trips to local branch. So rather than having somebody in our staff delivering a deposit to the bank every single day, what we do, we contracted Armored Services to come pick up the deposits and payments, and they take it to a local vault where they provide that. They just provide a report back to our staff so we can incorporate into our billing system. Second, we do have the automatic clearinghouse services. These are electronic money transfers between banks. BPB utilizes ACH services for its biweekly direct deposits and payroll disbursements, AP disbursements, collection of utility payments, ACH debits from customers, and payroll tax and other deductions. So benefits includes low cost, highly secure, and they're convenient for BPUB and our customers. One important aspect of this is the cutoff times that the banks provide for this type of services. So that's something we also looked at. Third, we've got the wire bank services. This is also important because they do provide a secure and efficient way of sending money, especially for large amounts and urgent payments. Lockbox services. These are designed to expedite the collection of paper-based payments and provide timely payment information to update accounts receivable records. So what happens here is that the payments are remitted to a lockbox location. In this case, for the current bank, is at Dallas, right? And so the bank would then receive, open, and process payments for BPUB, and then just process a report back to us. Next, Positive Pay with Payee Review Service. So this is a banking feature that adds an extra layer of protection against check fraud by verifying not only the check number, the date and amount of the checks, but they also verify the payee name on the check against the pre-authorized list that's provided by BPUB. So essentially ensuring that the money is only sent to the intended recipient and preventing some fraudulent alterations to the payee name on the check. So this has been an invaluable service for us during the distribution of the Nebraska Equity Fund checks that we issued out this past year, over 12,000 checks. If you all recall, a lot of our customers posted copies of those checks on social media, right? And so we did have a lot of fraudulent activity where people were trying to present checks for cash at a bank, where they basically substituted their name up on top of the payee. And but because we had this service, payee verification, it was denied. You know, sometime back, several years back, we didn't have this service. We only had deposited pay, so they weren't checking for payee. If we didn't have this service, a lot of those checks would have cleared the bank. So this is very, very positive. So direct debit services, these are customer pre-authorized debits where we pull payments from the customer's accounts at their authorization for utility payments, right? And then some of the fraud prevention services that we're looking for is the ACH debit block. This is the ability to selectively permit and restrict ACH debits during the Tenasca Fund Equity distributions as well, because the copies of the checks were included in social media. Our banking information was made available, right? Our routing, our bank account numbers. And so we also had some activities where people wanted to directly debit our account. We had that block installed, and so those efforts got rejected, so that helps. No post check. This service prevents unauthorized checks from being presented for payment to be posted to the accounts. Account for ownership verification. This is also very important for us. This is another fraud service to verify account owner authentication through early warning participation. So it helps ensure that the funds are sent to the correct person or entity. So whenever we have somebody that's enrolling in ACH, for us, we go through this process to identify, and if there's a mismatch between the account and the owner's name, well, then that raises a red flag for us, and we'll have to do some additional inquiries there before we actually accept that change. This is the respondents that responded. I already covered this through the initial introduction, so I'll go ahead and skip that. So at this time, I mean, that's all I had. Was ready to present. We did provide some additional information, like the rating charts in your packets, something that we can probably discuss in closed session if you all wish, if you have any questions. Otherwise, this is the staff that made up our review committee. So they are all available here to answer any questions that you all might have.
No, this item, I think, is a very important item. The presentation information is good, and I think it should move to the entire board for consideration and action. I think that's what we're going.
Do you have any questions?
I'll ask mine in closed.
Okay. Mike, I just want to make sure that I understand this. So on average, funds held with the depository, on average, those balances were $3 million, and that's it?
The historical average balance was about 3.1 million.
Yeah,
Right. The staff makes an effort to, just keep the minimal amount that we can in there.
Yeah, you do a good job
And
with
really
that.
invest the remaining balances. So that's come in very handy and generating those interest earnings.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that, you keep average balances of $3 million, you've got, I don't know, 26 accounts or something with all those transactions, and you have a bank that waives a fee. I just don't see how you come out on that. We don't bid. I said at the very beginning that we weren't going to bid on this, but I just really don't see how you make money off of that at all. I think that the bids were very competitive. There was 2 local banks and the one current depository that I think are pretty clustered together. I guess I have 2 questions, and maybe just to, you don't have to answer them right now, but maybe on Monday, right, for the regular board meeting. One is that on the types of products and services, it'd be good to know, like for that pay positive account, which of the banks offered that and which didn't. Like the critical services that you say, hey, these are critical services that are fraud prevention oriented, that can save us money. Because that's pretty serious. Check fraud, although people don't use checks anymore, I mean, it is alive and well, right? And then it can cause a lot of disruption and reputational risk, right, for the utility. So it would be good to know, like, which ones have it and then which ones don't have it. And then in terms of the overnight, I mean, historically, I mean, have we ever really received any interest on overnight funding?
No, really not. We're maintaining that 3.1
I mean, because
balance really just
yeah, y'all need the earnings credit, right, to keep at least $3 million. So
to
that
offset
you pay
the
those
fees
service charges,
and
right,
charges.
and then the overnight rate versus earnings credit. And then if you do keep overnight money, typically what they'll do is they may deduct that from your account analysis statement, right? So, I mean, if the utility had kept, let's say, $20 million, I would say that overnight thing is a big deal, but if you do, and it's good what you're doing. I mean, you're not leaving any cheese on the table for anybody here. I mean, $3 million with this amount of count, with these level of service, the number of transactions. But the overnight thing doesn't really seem to be like pretty, like very important factor here.
Right.
Or that interest rate. It's more about the service charges, and I think it comes out to be also is the, those critical products and services and who offers them and who doesn't offer them, right? Those are the questions that I think on Monday that probably need to
Yeah.
be brought up. Because I saw three bids in here to me were like super close, right? Two locals and then the one existing.
Right. We did provide, and you should have had it in your packet, a different, separate presentation, confidential. So it includes the items that some of the banks, the cons, some of the services that would not be able to be provided by those banks are
That's-
listed on there.
What I want to ask about, but enclosed, just
Okay.
because there's some details.
Very
Okay.
good. All right, thank you, Mike. Yes, I guess our recommendation, there's a recommendation to go ahead and present this to the full board on Monday.
Okay. Are you all okay with us making a recommendation, or will you all be making a recommendation as to which bank?
Yeah, to
will
be honest
awarded?
with you, Mike, I'm not ready to make a recommendation. I'd like to study a little bit more.
Okay, so then we keep this item in as individual consideration, so full
Yes.
presentation to the board. We'll do that.
Dr. Holman,
Is that okay with everybody?
I agree.
this is Paul Gonzalez, General Counsel. Just wanted to address, did I hear that somebody was interested in going to closed on today's presentation?
Oh, I just wanted to ask a couple clarifying questions about the confidential information.
Okay, so the,
Well, if we can't do that, then that's fine. I'd rather
The-
move things forward. It's
the
not a
full
big-
board that might be best at next week's
Sounds good.
presentation, if that's
But then
okay.
I'll be in a hotel room in Florida.
And just, Paul, just for my experience has been, is that anybody can ask for a copy of the public contract that we have right now. I mean, any bank or any individual can go and say, hey, what's the public depository, and this is what you're paying, and these are the pricings. I mean, banks do that all the time to just see, hey, how did we come out, what did they get, what did they offer? And it readily, it's, here's the charges, and here's the products and services, and,
I think it becomes public the second we vote on it.
yeah.
Right.
I think it's kind of held confidential until then.
Right now, these are just proposals, and so that's why we're keeping it confidential. But you're right, once they get
Is
approved,
it confidential?
Correct, since these are pending bidders, and there's not been a final decision by the
Okay.
board, and certain contracts are subject to final negotiations as well, so for that reason, it's retained until a final contract is awarded.
Really? Because, I
Correct.
mean, I guess, thank you for letting me know about that. We see contracts all the time. People are bidding on materials, we see the contracts, there's a recommendation, but we know what the exact prices are. It's on the agenda, we vote on it, everybody knows what the pricing is. But nevertheless, if that's what it is, that's what it is then. Okay, thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Nope, I'm fine.
Okay. Any questions? Okay.
all right, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, item number 4, presentation discussion on grants activity update.
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. I am Miriam Suarez, Senior Grants Coordinator based out of the Finance Department, and I'm here this afternoon to provide an update on grant activity for BPUB and SRWA. I began with a visual snapshot of fiscal year 2024, where there were just over $78.8 million in grant requests submitted on behalf of BPUB and SRWA. Award offers totaling just under $11.2 million were received for 3 BPUB-led projects, and they are pending the financial assistance agreements to move forward. Lastly, there are 4 active BPUB-led projects that received a little under $26.3 million in grant funds. Sorry, what did I do here? Here we have the active and awarded grants list with a bit more information. For the active projects, the grant funding totals $26.3 million with a local cost share of 15.6 million. Local cost share percentage ranges between 0 and 73%, with project costs totaling around $41.9 million. For the awarded and pending section, there are 3 projects that we have received a notice of award, but we're pending the financial assistance agreements in order for the projects to begin. The potential grant funding totals $11.2 million with a local cost share of $922,000. The local share percentages range between 0 and 65%, and the total project costs are just under $12.1 million. Here we have a list of submitted grant requests totaling just over the $78.8 million. 5 applications were submitted on behalf of BPUB totaling $18.2 million. 3 applications were submitted on behalf of SRWA totaling $20.5 million. And there was a direct ask or request through Congressman Gonzalez's office for $40 million to be included in the Water Resources Development Act, which authorizes projects to be funded through a separate appropriations bill. In the last couple of weeks, we have received response letters for 3 projects on this list with an award offer, and they are for the SRWA Wellfield and Facility Improvements Project. The original grant request was for $10.6 million, and a partial award offer was received for $5 million. The next steps for that particular project include going through the post-award process with the Bureau of Reclamation to finalize the project scope and budget and enter into a financial assistance agreement. The second project that we received an award offer for is for the Resaca de la Guerra Resilience and Restoration Project. The grant request for that was $3 million, and we did receive full funding, a full funding offer. And the next steps include entering into a financial assistance agreement with the Bureau of Reclamation. The last project that we received an offer for was for the Central Estates and Saldivar Praxedis Wastewater Improvements Project. This is a partnership with Cameron County, who is the lead applicant, as only non-entitlement counties can apply for Texas CDBG funding. The grant request was for $1 million, and we received a full funding offer. An interlocal agreement has been signed with the county, and the next steps include working with the Texas Department of Agriculture and complete the environmental review process and the contractor selection process as well. Lastly, I end the presentation with a list of available funding opportunities at the federal, state, and local level that we're currently researching and reviewing to make sure that it meets the organization's mission and priorities and, the capital improvements plan list. The focus on these grants that we're looking at, they focus on water conservation, water wastewater infrastructure, energy backup, environmental and health, and energy innovation. This concludes my presentation. I'm available to answer any questions.
Very good information, thank you.
Thank you.
This is great.
Okay, last item on the agenda, regular agenda here is the presentation discussion of the annual comprehensive financial report for the period ending September 30th, 2024.
Yes, good afternoon. So the firm of Burton McCumber Longoria completed their audit of BPUB's financial statements for the fiscal year ended September 30, 2024. In their opinion, the financial statements were presented fairly in all material aspects in accordance with the U.S. generally accepted auditing standards and government auditing standards, earning the BPUB an unmodified opinion. Here with us today is Ben Peña, audit partner with Burton McCumber and Longoria, to provide the Finance Committee with their communications to governance and their audit opinions and findings on BPUB's fiscal year 24 audit. Ben?
Thank you, Mike. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, My name is Ben Peña. For the benefit of the members of the public, I'm with Burton McCumber Longoria. I am the audit partner in charge of this year's audit, and I'm pleased to report that, everything went well. Auditing standards do require us to make certain communications to the audit committee or finance committee, as well as the board of directors, with respect to how the audit went. I'm pleased to report that all of our requests were received orderly and timely and very well organized, so we didn't have any issues with respect to getting information and getting through the audit. Another communication that we are required to disclose are new accounting policies that were implemented by the BPUB this year, and we have GASB 53, which is an accounting for financial reporting for derivative instruments. And this year, the BPUB did enter into some forward contracts on gas hedges to mitigate some of the price risk related to the gas purchases. So for the most part, the effect on the financial statements is a recognition of the deferred inflow, an equal amount in the deferred outflow for 181,000. So minimal impact on the balance sheet at the end of the year, but for the most part, it's a small effect. The second item that I'd like to cover is the significant estimates that are embodied within the financial statements. Estimates are, it's not a hard computation to arrive at a number, so you got to take some assumptions into account. So they're kind of estimates. For example, we have unbilled revenue, we have the allowance for doubtful accounts, depreciation on capital assets, depreciation for estimated useful lives. Nobody knows exactly how long a fixed asset is going to last, but for the most part, generally speaking, they all are pretty consistent. It may be before or after, so it's not really a hard number. Estimated cost on capital contributions, estimated self-insurance claims, which are I have that trouble with that word, actuarially determined, as well as the net pension OPEB liability related to deferrals. I'm pleased to report that there were no difficulties encountered during the audit, and there were no uncorrected misstatements that we noted as we did our audit procedures, and also there were no disagreements with management. And I'm happy to also report that there were no findings related to internal controls or internal controls over financial reporting that were noted. I'm pleased to report that the financial statements, by the way, there's two audit reports within the annual comprehensive financial report. One is the opinion on the financial statements themselves, and the other is an opinion on government auditing standards, internal control over financial reporting, and compliance with certain provisions, laws, regulations, contracts, and grant agreements, of which non-compliance would have a direct and material effect on the financial statement. So that is what we call the GAS report. It is a yellow book report that all governmental entities are required to have us opine on. This report, actually, the amounts on the Public Utilities Board will be reported in the city's annual comprehensive financial statements as a component unit. So those are consolidated into the city's report as well. So on both of those, we did not have any reportable findings on internal controls and compliance with laws, regulations, and contracts. And on the financial statement side, the financial statements we opined in an unmodified manner, which means it is a clean opinion. And finally, we did not have an audit under the old OMB Circular A133, which is audits of federal expenditures of federal awards. The threshold for that is $750,000. We had about $300,000, but I suspect that a lot of the federal awards that have been received and queued up are about to be consumed in the coming months. So we'll probably have that audit in the coming years to audit under the Single Audit Act, under Regulation Part 200 of the Uniform Guidance. At this time, I'd love to go over the numbers with you, but I know we're short on time, so it might be something that we can share with the full board, but for the most part, the audit went well. We had no issues. We're actually very pleased that we're already coming to an end to bring this audit to the finish line. So if there's any questions, I can answer those right now.
I just want to congratulate the fact that Mike Mike and his team are doing a good job, obviously. You guys have no findings.
Right.
Now, I wanted to just mention, Ben, when you work with organizations such as PUB, without naming any, what are some of the common findings that are serious that you may find?
Well, first of all, let me preface my response to that when you work with the level of professionalism of your finance department, that you get answers quickly to your questions, or you make requests on certain documentation that you'd like to see for certain issues. They're very prompt, and they're very knowledgeable of what they're doing. So we're very pleased, and it makes working and the audit process so much smoother and easier. And so you should be very proud of your finance department. It's very well run, and the people in it are very, very talented as well. So, and it makes for easier audit process. The second part of that question is what makes it a difficult audit. It's obviously, you know, a finance department that has a lot of turnover, new people that don't know exactly the process. So there may be gaps in knowing where to go get the information pulled from, you know, computer databases and so forth. So that's what kind of makes it difficult to audit. And so the talent within those finance departments that is not there, then we find that it's a heavier lift on our part to go through the process. But we don't have that issue here at all.
Thank you. Thank you for that response.
First of all, Ben, thank you very much. Your firm, you know, real high marks, good communication with the board, met the deadlines.
Yeah.
You know, the report is very comprehensive. Obviously, y'all have very high standards over there at the firm, so thank you so much for your work. And then, Mike, you know, for someone who is audited like 24/7 all the time, I know how hard it is to get a clean audit. I mean, kudos, congratulations, outstanding job on the audit this year. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I think to Ben's points, Mike, Monica, you guys are stuck here probably forever. Thank you all very much.
I would like to say that annual comprehensive financial report is a heavy lift. It takes a lot of people to put together, but Tricia quarterbacking it, she does a great job of bringing everybody together, and everybody's comments and what should go into those financial statements. It's very few people have that knowledge to prepare it, and so we're very pleased about that as well.
My only adverse comment is I think that the cover sheet needs to be, you know, reflective of the excellence of the report, right? It's very plain. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Okay, so at this time, we're going to convene in a closed meeting. We have one item, presentation, discussion, and possible recommendation of information upon pricing of purchased power generation and fuel and their impact on the fuel purchased energy and marketing change, section 551.086. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
I'll second.
There's a first and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Thank you.
The time is 12:43.
Okay, it is 12:50. We are going to reconvene our open meeting. Item A, discussion and possible recommendation on closed meeting items. There was none. B, discussion and/or request for future agenda items. Anyone have anything? No. Okay, there is none. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Here a second?